Hey, honey. You doing? You alright? Whoa, okay.
Okay.
Now, imagine that in your first year of marriage. Boy, oh boy.
So guys, when you saw the title, you're probably thinking, what are these guys going to be talking about? Well, we had this awful experience in our first year of marriage because...
Awful is an understatement.
Yeah. We were none the wiser about contraception and the effects that it had on my well-being, my hormones, my emotions. And so...
I think I expected you to know. I think it's just one of those things you expect girls to know everything, don't you?
I think that's the thing. We didn't actually talk about that before we got married. I think you just kind of left that up to me to go and sort out and figure out and decide on. And yeah, I think...
And frankly speaking, I don't know of any guy who would talk to his wife. I mean, I don't know. Maybe nowadays things are different, but I don't recall ever having a conversation or talking to any other guy who talked about contraception with his wife.
No. So often it's just left up to the girl to make those big decisions about, okay, what we're going to be using for contraception. So disclaimer, guys, we're not your pastor, we're not a doctor, we're not nurses, we don't work in sexual health. So we are not going to be giving you any medically sound advice, if that makes sense. But we're going to be sharing our experience of contraception. And
we'll call it empirical evidence, based on our experience.
Our experience. Why are we sharing this topic with you? Because it's part of child rearing, right? So some of you might choose to have children straight away. Some of you might choose to wait before you have children. And if you're choosing to wait, you might be choosing a method of contraception. So, Mark, tell our audience, what was it like getting married to me and then, oh, your wife doesn't want you to touch her?
So just as you notice in that scene where, you know, you walk in, you're all excited, enthusiastic about life and the day in general. You walk up to somebody and say hello, and you notice they're actually not interested in talking to you at all, let alone actually just being in any way sensitive to how you are in that moment. No. No,
and not that, but just I didn't actually want Mark to physically touch me, as in put his hands on me. I was just like, leave me alone. I do not want you anywhere near me.
I mean, I think it was bizarre to say the least, because you're thinking, hang on, you know, if anything, we should have some sort of level of interaction, right? Be physical intimacy, so you could just sit and hold each other.
Like, we've just been married, guys, and for us, there's no physical intimacy before marriage. Yeah. So you would be thinking at this stage of marriage, it should be like fireworks every day, right? But actually it was the complete opposite. And we're thinking, oh, I'm sure you were thinking, what is going on?
But obviously it's worrying when you see something like that, because you start thinking, hang on, did I make a mistake? What did I do wrong? Well, at the time there was nobody I could really speak to about that. So it was just a case of trying to figure out
what it was.
One, what is it? And two, how do we sort it out?
How do we sort it out? And you know what? For me as well, I was similar. I was thinking to myself, this is really weird. Like, I love Mark. Like I've just married him. Like, what is going on? Why do I not want him to come near me?
Yeah.
And you know, I'm so grateful, because it was actually when we went to another sister's house, and I was telling her, I was just like confiding in her.
And she's a doctor.
Thank God, she's a pharmacist.
Oh, a pharmacist.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Thank God for people who you can confide in, and they share their stories with you, because if people don't share their stories, I would have never found out this. So I was just saying, look, I don't actually know what's going on with me, but I feel like this. I don't want Mark to touch me. I don't want him to come near me. I'm very hormonal and moody, and I was gaining a lot of weight. A lot of people actually thought that I was pregnant, because people kept asking me, like, are you pregnant? Are you pregnant? I was like, no, I'm not. I was gaining a lot of weight. And she said to me, are you on the pill? And I was like, yes, I am. She was like, that's what it is. Because I went through a very similar experience. In fact, almost everything you're describing is exactly what happened to me. And I was like, oh my goodness.
I mean, I'll just sort of replaying some of the, you know, the events as they kind of occurred. Say, for example, you know, I'd come home and, you know, Beth was sat by the sofa, and you go over there and, you know, you just want to sit next to her. You know, when you sit next to somebody and then they kind of just move, shift over, shimmy over to the side, and you're thinking, hang on, what's the problem?
Give me my personal space.
Yeah, and you're like, you know, give me my personal space. And you're thinking, hang on, we've just been married. What are you talking about personal space? You know.
I would say it is important to have this conversation together. Talk to your doctor.
Well, I was going to say, at the time I wasn't journaling. I don't.
No, you weren't journaling.
At the time, so I didn't make a diary entry about that. I should have done that.
And not only your doctor, talk to your doctor, talk to your pastor. Yeah. Find out what works for you guys as a couple and make a decision, because with every method you choose, there's going to be pros and cons. So in the end, we decided that actually scratch all the hormone replacement stuff, like And you don't want anything synthetic because actually affected our marriage really badly. So we just decided to use the natural method, which is the tracking method, which has been used for centuries. And obviously Mark doesn't really know. Mark doesn't actually really know the ins and outs of what that entails.
I had one sister, and so and we didn't really talk much about that. She was more tomboyish than anything else. We talked about cars and, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, for anybody who's thinking, oh yeah, maybe the natural method might be the best way to go, there's loads of YouTube videos out there. I just did a quick search before we even filmed this, and there is loads of in-depth scientific videos which will teach you how to do the natural method. And it is really, really effective. We've used it for 12 years of marriage, and we've used it for our 2 kids, and we've timed those pregnancies, and every time we've wanted those pregnancies to happen, they've happened within 3-4 months of us wanting them to happen. But it's really quite basic. You just track your cycle.
Quite basic, she says.
You track your cycle, and especially if your cycle is consistent and it comes every month at the same time, you track your cycle. And the app, if there's loads of apps, I use the Glow app. The Glow app, it will tell you when you're ovulating. So you ovulate once a month. That is the only time you can get pregnant, because that's when your body releases an egg.
I think it was actually fascinating to find out that there's some girls and women that actually learn about ovulation just after they're married, because obviously they've never had that conversation with anybody.
Yeah, and so that is how you get pregnant, when you're ovulating. You can't get pregnant when you're not ovulating, because ovulation is what brings the egg. So
I'm not sure how many guys know that, but anyway.
They probably don't. So that's why the tracking system is actually quite good. If you're tracking your cycle and you're very precise about it, and you're avoiding at those times when you're releasing eggs, then you should be good to go. But again, as we said, this is just for your information. If you haven't thought about contraception, the effect that it might be having on your marriage, this is just a conversation starter for you guys. That's what happened with us, and we're so happy that we walked away.
How did we resolve it? I mean, I recall, after we did that, it was just not long after that we were able to actually notice the difference.
A significant difference. I think it took about a month or 2 for my hormone levels to change again and go back down. And then I did also notice like the weight started dropping and everything. Like things just started returning back to normal. And then that's when obviously we started tracking and stuff like that. But yeah, we haven't looked back. I've just been for my 6 to 8 week checkup, and they're like, so how do you think about contraception? I'm like, keep that stuff away from me, because that stuff makes me go mad, and I do not like it. Hence why it's important to speak to your doctor, speak to your pastor, talk together, decide what works for you guys.